in the bottom position of Lightshade, he is BYUN. And his opponent at the top, he is a freak of freaks, Stats. It's funny because every time I see BYUN versus a Protoss for either an Alpha X event or just in general, it's usually Stats, which is just funny to me because it seems like Stats and BYUN really just poke holes in each other's play all the time. And I mean, you know, this is going to be no exception, a regular old best of 3. So it's going to be very fun to see how these get to duke it out. Once again, the SEV going to be going for the Scout, just trying to make sure he's a little bit safe in these situations. Sorry about that. My smoke alarm was going off for a second, so I had to mute the microphone. Actually, still trying to find out what that is. Funnily enough, I don't think you can actually hear it through the microphone, but the smoke alarm is actually going off in the other room. Okay, it stopped. Back to game. Okay, so BYUN going for that Reaper for more scouting information. He didn't skip it this time, but he does have the factory up. He does have the factory up and running. The Reaper going to be able to get in here and actually do a little bit of work before that shield battery finishes that one probe, trying to survive, and actually the Reaper goes down. Citizens arrest. Those Stats is going to keep the hits rolling as he does kind of delay this CC from going down, trying to get it finished, but still the Adepts being such a nuisance. And oh no, the Marines popping on the wrong side of the rails as well. Gonna try and focus down that one Adept before retreating to the bunker. I am live, but the replays are not. Now BYUN is doing one of his signature styles once again. This is something that he's kind of adapted from his 2-1-1 in TVZ, where sometimes he'll just kind of delay that gas a little bit and just throw down that additional racks, get that stim up and rolling. He doesn't even really wait for medevacs most of the time. He just sends it across once he has 6 to 7 Marines. And really, a lot of the time, the Protoss player, I got it right at the third time, the Protoss player really isn't expecting it. Now, this looks like this is a more traditional 2-1-1, just going to build up and get the, what do you call it, the medevacs up and running. And from there, just try and push his opponent. See, the thing is, Stats does have 4 gateways already up and operational. He's got the blink on the way as well, so he's going to be the first one looking to be aggressive. And unfortunately for him, this is a little bit of a hard counter to that situation. Just the fact that these guys will have stim is more than enough to push this back. I mean, getting that third rack as well. This is looking grimmer and grimmer for this attack. Although the one saving grace is there will be no siege tanks during it. So he will be able to kind of rotate around. It's not a set and forget defense for BYUN anymore. Instantly just going to jump on top of that. Remember, there is no healing with this army just yet. The ACV's pulled as well. BYUN moving very far forward, trying to push his way forward. Getting 2 stalkers already, but the ACV's still a bit far forward with it. And every time I say forward, it's now officially a drinking game. He still has no medevacs. He hasn't even started them just yet, so these orange HP units are just going to continuously go down. Oh man, this is crazy amounts of damage. And there you have it, stats. Going to take the first game. Is there a way to see the actual bracket? There should be. If you take a look, if you type in ! bracket, you can, looks like, yeah, it looks like you can see those. Yeah, it's the OlimoLeague one. But just a heads up, those are spoilers as to how this series is going. But you know what? That means we move on to match point without further ado. Spawning down here in the bottom position, he is BYUN. And his opponent up here in the top for Afrika Freaks, he is Stats. Oh, welcome, welcome, Narrative. Definitely has been some poor decisions by Blizzard on how the community has been run, but there is still more than enough passionate people bringing it forward, and there's still quite a few high-level games to be played. So even though it's kind of shrunk, it's kind of just gotten rid of the chaff. Just making sure that the people who want to be here are actually here because they want that. And still a lot of great content coming out from so many different places. So I wouldn't be sad. I would be glad that we still have so many amazing people putting on events and making content for this great game. Now, nothing too crazy coming out of both sides just yet. Sometimes what BYUN likes to do is he likes to just throw down the 3 racks right here and go back to 2016 in our hearts. Just making, you know, just 3 racks Reaper all over the place. But, you know, players have started to wise up to him. They know he's up to his old tricks sometimes, so they are much better suited to handle it. But, I mean, you can teach a new BYUN new tricks, as we've been seeing overall. And this time, we're not really going to see too many of them just yet. I agree with you, JNTHN. Like, everyone's trying to keep this game alive, and we're going to be able to do it for quite a bit of time. Funnily enough, the guys who just took over for WCS, ESL, I have worked with quite a few of them, and I've spoken with quite a few of them, and almost every single one of them is a huge SC2 nerd. So they all want to keep this going for as long as possible, hence their 3-year deal with Blizzard. Now this Reaper is kind of just hanging out there, trying to whittle down the shields on that battery on the other side of the map. Once again, we're going to see that Adept be a little bit annoying, but just with how big this map is, it's just not the best. He doesn't cancel the CC. He doesn't slow that down. And so the Adept just going to have to get out of there before the Marine count gets too high. Now this is interesting. I did see an Oracle on the production tab, but I guess that got canceled because the Reaper saw it. We're going to be going into Phoenix, which, you know, on a large map such as this, it does make sense because it allows you to kind of keep that map presence and just kind of go for those easy pickoffs on the SCVs, as well as, you know, just be a general nuisance, especially if you're trying to attack as the Terran player. It's really difficult to kind of get in there with the siege tanks, as you can get lifted up at any time. Stats, though, not going to overcommit to this. He's got the Robo facility off the back, and really that's all he really needs at this time. BYUN not being aggressive right now, as he's just gearing up for a 2-1-1 that might not come. Okay, so the Phoenix just going to be flying around, being their usual annoying self. Robo Bay going down, so Colossus is the next choice. And really, these aren't meant to get massive amounts of damage. They're just there to be a nuisance. Stim, just about to complete, and this is really where we start to see BYUN begin his move out. You should see, again, those starports coming on down. I mean, Stats getting a lot more damage than I would have assumed. Okay, so we have a little bit of a timing here for BYUN. He's going to try and hit before the Colossus production starts. That shield battery is going to be his biggest obstacle because he doesn't really have enough units to kind of DPS the opponent down. But there's a good chance that he dives right on in here, and instead just going to back up. Got to be careful. Those Phoenix can start to get the pickoffs. And yeah, he is just going to retreat here. Every stim is irreversible right now, as there's no medevacs on the map just yet. The reason I keep getting tongue-tied is because literally every single unit that BYUN usually makes starts with an M, so I keep getting them mixed up in my head, because he's got Marauders, Marines, Mines, Medevacs, Thors, and CVs. Really hard to keep track of it all. But now we do see Stats starting to get that gateway explosion. He's got a good Colossus count, gonna get his second one up, and I mean, BYUN's going for a strike right in the main base. I think Stats is in a decent position to defend it, and indeed he has gotten wind of it. So we'll have to see how much can he get done with this smattering of Marines. Good focus fire on those Phoenix, going to keep that count nice and low. Going to get right on top of the probe line as well. A couple will start to fall. The shield battery doing overtime. Look at that. He's going to find damage. That's the thing about BYUN. Even if there's none to be had, he will find at least one additional probe kill. But, you know, behind this, stats, he's in a good spot. I won't say that he's necessarily ahead by any means, but he's still not really taking too much damage, as you would expect, versus BYUN. He's being very cautious as well, I gotta say, getting those missile turrets up quite aggressively. And here we go. Remember that Stats has had a lot of vision on BYUN's side of the map for the longest time with these Phoenix, so he's seen the move out. One thing he hasn't seen, though, is this big drop going straight for the fourth base. Scan going to go down, getting right on top of the Colossus, even just going to drop all over them. Good focus fire on those. And now, Stats a little bit out of position here. He might just have to recall to get back into this. Luckily, though, he does have enough Zealots in the main base. Colossus, though, is so exposed. And one less laser giraffe in the world, as BYUN going to be going for another big strike on the third. Now remember, that Phoenix count has been dwindled down, so they're not as effective as they used to be, but BYUN now just kind of focus firing down these probes, getting the last of the damage of this one. And while it's not amazing damage, he has gotten plenty done with that attack. Losing the Warp Prism, as well as even more damage on the probe line. Good Widowmine shot's going to tank all the Zealots, but you know, the force fields, as they start to dissipate, this is still a pretty bad fight for Stats, all things considered, because he's just taking so many shots right now and not really diving on top of this. The force field as well, not really giving him any help, as it's lowering the surface area of these Zealots. And BYUN taking an overwhelming army supply lead here. The stream of red across the map is just overwhelming. I think we should be seeing Stats tap out, and there you have it. BYUN takes the game, and he ties up the series 1-1. That does mean we do get a third game out of this, and it's always fun to see that third game come up. I don't think I would have it any other way. Back in 2011, they were saying, yeah, that's kind of the problem. People love a game so much, but then the sequel comes out and they kind of rag on it, saying it's too easy or it's not competitive enough. And that's really not the best thing. Like, every game's going to be different. Whether you play it for fun or play it competitively, just know that nothing has to be the same. You know, if a game just stays the same all the time, it's gonna dissolve. This is why I've been loving how StarCraft 2 kind of adapted from the original StarCraft. But let's introduce these players before I go too big of a rant here. Spawning in the top position for Afrika Freaks, he is BYUN. And his opponent, down here in the bottom, he is... I said BYUN twice, didn't I? This is Stats. And down here is BYUN, who, by the way, did just get caught throwing down a proxy, which might not actually go up. Although the positioning is good, so at least the racks might be enough. Good block with the engine bay as well, I gotta say. That's gotta be heartbreaking right there. Okay, so at what cost does that Rax get up? The Reaper is a little bit delayed, and so you know, Stats will have a little bit more time to get out a defensive unit. And Crank going to give us a little bit of a translation here, as he usually does for the OlimoLeague. Yeah. Very non-committal for all the work that it took to get that up. The Reaper is just going to come in here. Still built. But yeah, the Reaper is actually going to get a couple of kills, which is pretty nice before the Stalker cleans it up. And, I mean, from here, we do have that factory back at home. So he's already transitioning into his next stage. He's not very far behind in that regard. I mean, StarCraft 2 was pretty mainstream. I mean, it's the whole reason that Twitch was made, and like a lot of esports today was based off of kind of the model that Brood War set. But you know what? Stats is just going to go straight up to that Robo facility. He will start Blink off the back of this. And we saw how devastating it was in the last game for that Blink. Luckily for BYUN this time, though, he is going to get that Siege Tank. Live from replay. Maple Story 71. But yeah, I think BYUN's going to be in a bit better position to deal with this attack. He's already pretty well set up, and I mean, Stat's going to be going for the third base behind it, so he's not going to commit super heavily to this. So overall, I'm not too worried for how the next couple of seconds is going to come down, or a couple of minutes rather. Stim on the way. The third racks up as well. So really, there's just going to be massive amounts of unit production off these two bases, and that's really going to give BYUN a good settling clause here. Robo Bay as well going to be going off the back of this. So I guess this was a more defensive Blink opening. When am I on Trovo next? Not sure. I actually haven't been scheduled for any Trovo events recently. I think I was supposed to help Snoopy a few weeks back on Trovo, but had to drop out because of illness. Nah, pretty much. I've been mostly on Africa TV and here on Twitch recently, especially for the Republic of Gamer qualifiers just a few days ago. Indeed. Alpha X has three main platforms. We've got Trovo, we have Africa for our Pro Series events. Africa is one of our main sponsors. And we're right here on Twitch as well. Plus our YouTube is really starting to take off. I've been casting absolute massive amounts of replays for that. I actually had something rendering right before the stream that I had to cancel so I didn't lose all my bandwidth. But you know, nothing too much coming out of this game. Again, it's match point for both of these players, so neither side really wants to kind of pull the trigger and be aggressive first, because that's really going to not be an advantage if you can't get the engagement that you want. Couple of decent pickoffs here from Stats. His blink control is absolutely insane. Behind this also, we got that charge, we've got that +1 attack, and the Colossus as well. So really, it's going to be interesting to see how much damage BYUN can get with this. There's a nice position on the third base that you can kind of siege behind, so I think Stats is going to want to fight around that location. And yeah, there we go. He's also going to be forcing the siege up, just trying to keep BYUN back so that he can stall for time, get a couple more upgrades, a couple more zealots in. And yeah, here we go. Stats going to dive right on top of the siege tanks. Do get a couple of decent connections, but they are going to start to get picked off. Focus fire down by the Zealots, and BYUN forced back once again. I think from here, Stats really doesn't want to let BYUN get any more momentum, although that was a very aggressive blink forward. He's going to lose quite a few Stalkers to take down that Liberator. Colossus in the back, going to help out immensely. And now Stats just going for the killing blow. Colossus gotta be careful not to fight on the Liberator for too long. The Stalker does get the final shot off on the Liberator, and Stats is gonna take the series 2-1.